Your favorite Australian part?
What are you talking about there?
All right, questions for Coach Satterfield.
So kind of continuing with Dante, kind of just football side of the stuff, where do you see you're going to get production in that role if he was going to miss time? Who kind of looks to step into that role?
Well, I think Jalen Hunt's probably the guy that would be the next one. I really thought Jalen had one of the better springs that, out of the D-line. Compared to the fall, I thought he really, made his mind up to come out and make some plays. And this spring, man, he was making them left and right. Then after that, it's really going to be by committee. We'll try to, we don't have as many, those 300-pounders that you want to put at the nose. So to me, it'll be some of your guys that are, 275, 280. They're now a different kind of nose. There'll be a quicker nose where you can, really slant and angle those guys and try to create havoc. But, I think that'll be something in camp. I mean, obviously, when we go through camp, a lot of guys are going to get reps there, in case anything like that would be the case.
Coach, obviously people know what to expect from Corey Kiner. What do you Chance Williams and Evan Pryor add to that room?
I think, Evan and Chance both have a lot of talent, have ability to break tackles. They also have some speed to be able to break out. I think toward the end of spring practice, I thought both of those guys really started coming along and doing some good things. I think they've had a good summer so far, so that's one of the positions where I'm looking to see, all right, this fall camp, like who's going to be the next 2 to 3 guys that we can really put in there. Who'll be the first guy off the bench outside of Corey that'll get time. We all know though that you're gonna, we'll play, 4 or 5 of those guys. Vic's another one that's a guy who towards ACL last year didn't play that I think will be back, and he's 220, 225 now. He's running really good, so I'm excited about him. We didn't tackle him this spring, but this obviously in August we'll be able to get him a little bit. So I think the depth there is going to be there, and not outside of Corey. So I'm excited about the running back room.
Your tight end room better than people would think?
I think so. I'm excited about that. I love the guys in that room. We have several transfers that are there. We picked up Sherman, this summer, and I think he's going to add to the mix. We talked about Joe. I'm excited about the 2 freshmen we signed that came here in January. So you got, to me, there's 5 or 6 guys in the tight end room, and you guys know we'll utilize the tight ends. I mean, we're going to, pretty much have a tight end on the field at all times, and a lot of times we're going to have 2 or 3. I also think like a guy like Joe can be, play that wide out. He can get out wide. It's a different kind of matchup for DBs against a big body like that. So we'll be able to utilize him in a lot of different scenarios. But I'm excited about that room. That's an upgrade for sure.
Speaking of the tight ends, obviously Gavin Grover is one of those 2 freshmen. Talk about what you saw from him throughout the spring.
The one thing we thought about Gavin, like we knew he's big, he can catch, but will he put his face on anybody with his block? Well, he did it. He did it this spring. And I was fired up about him the first time he came off the ball and really tried to put his face on a defensive guy. And then he got better as it went along. He's still learning, but you can't coach the kind of size he has, and that dude is huge. I mean, 6'6", close to 6'7". He came in at 260 this summer. So he is a big body that has soft hands, and so Zahersky's the other freshman. I really feel like he can be kind of like a fullback type, a body that can go block as well. So both of those guys, I think, should be even better than they were in the spring, having been here and gone through the summer.
Scott, you make the jump last year, getting into the Big 12. What do you need to do in year 2 for you guys to kind of maybe brush off what happened last year and get better?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be a lot more disciplined than we were last year. We're very undisciplined. We're getting penalties for just very stupid things. And so it starts with the discipline. It also starts to being a connected football team. I felt like last year, we had some guys were going in several different directions. I feel like this summer and this spring that was our intention to be very connected, and our guys, they're fun to be around. And so I think anytime you look forward to getting into the meeting room, you look forward to getting to the field, that you got the right kind of guys. And I think that more than anything. I mean, we lost 4 games in the last possession there last year that very easily could have won if we had some guys pulling in the same direction. And so I credit that to these leaders. I mean, some of the guys that are here today, these 4 guys, but also some other guys in that locker room that really, really care about the team and will not let any outside factors affect that.
What was the biggest?
The commissioner spoke about the revenue sharing. How do you think that's going to impact potential roster expansion? Is there anything that you can do as a coach to prepare for maybe that next step?
No, I mean, I think in the last 3 or 4 years, I feel like there's been new things that pop up every month, and so we try to figure it all out. So I mean, what I'm more focused on really is how we're going to be competitive with this team this fall, and how we're going to be able to play in August. And then when things come down the pipe, we'll have to address those things, as far as revenue share, how much money you're getting, all this, the different things. And then also roster management. I mean, they're talking about in the future, maybe limiting the size of rosters in college football. Those are type things that I don't really know until it happens.
Do you have a preference on what that would look like?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily like limiting roster sizes for football. Like, I mean, I've heard somebody threw the number out 90 or 85 or whatever, not having any walk-ons. I mean, I was a walk-on player, so I don't understand that. Like, I don't get that. We've got a lot of walk-on players on our team now in Cincinnati that have earned scholarships that are playing. Like, what's going to happen to those guys? So I don't understand limiting or bringing the roster down from 120 down to maybe 90. That's 30 guys. Like, how are we going to do that? So I don't know the answers to that. I don't like it, but it happens.
Scott, did anything from the first season of the Big 12 stand out to you that you felt like, okay, we got to get bigger, stronger, faster, better? Was that?
Well, I think one of the things was depth. Like, I felt like we didn't have the depth that we needed. I think particularly, obviously O-line, D-line, in your first year, and then for us it was in the secondary as well. I just thought defense, we got wore down in the second half of games and in the second half of the season. Probably the last 3 or 4 games, I feel like we had a lot of juice left, and I think part of that, like Jack Dingle, one of our linebackers, I mean, I think he got way too many reps. We didn't have enough depth to rotate him. I feel like this year, right now as we sit here, 6 or 7 linebackers, we can rotate those guys a little bit more. It's a long season. We're playing some big guys, some big teams, and so you get hit on so many times. I mean, your body only has so many licks, and I feel like a guy like that could really benefit for having some guys that can help, like Goldie that we just got in here. I think Goldie's he almost looks like Jack. I mean, he's 6'3", 240, 45. He hit 22 miles an hour the other day on the catapult. I mean, he can run. I mean, somebody like that's going to be able to help depth-wise.
You guys got your 5 offensive linemen back. Is that lineup set, or is there going to be some competition and some guys can
There'll be competition. We want to compete at every position. I mean, I've talked about the quarterback room. We want to compete. We're going to compete on the O-line. I mean, every position. But so I do think. I mean, there's probably this year on the O-line we'll end up playing 7, probably 8 guys, and hopefully we'll be able to rotate 8 guys. I mean, I really like being able to rotate guys to. For 2 things. I mean, number one, it gives you more depth, and also for those young guys that maybe next year when they'll be the starter, they've already played a lot of football. So hopefully at least 8 guys will be in that rotation, and whoever starts will be whoever the best is, right, for that week.
Hey, Coach, based upon what you've seen in the spring, what do you think is going to define the identity for your team in 24?
I think a lot of that is going to be made up this August when we really see our team, and how they come together. But I mean, hopefully we're going to be a blue-collar team that's going to earn everything on the field. We'll be able to, play a physical brand of football, but also discipline. And I think if we're able to do that, we should be able to win some games. I mean, I think that's what we were not able to do last year.
You get picked 14th. Do you take motivation from what Neil Brown did last year when they were picked last year?
I don't really care about where we're picked, if it's first or last. I mean, obviously you love to be picked first, and that helps, but that doesn't necessarily matter. It's, I don't know how anybody can pick teams anymore. We got 47 new scholarship players. How do they know where we're going to be? Like, they don't. So that don't really matter to me. I think it's what you put together once your football team, and then go out and play game by game. And hopefully we've got a much better football team. But yeah, I mean, certainly you want to exceed expectations if that's where they pick us. Hopefully we're way above that, and we're doing a lot better things this year.
Barry Jackson was the name that we talked about around this time last year after a breakout spring game. How does his role increase this year, and what have you seen from some of the younger guys like Cale Woodburn and Dakari Anderson?
Yeah, Cale, I think, is a guy who this spring showed a lot. He can really run. He knocked the top off. He had a nice catch in the spring game. Dakari's more of a running back playing receiver. He's a more physical player. Barry Jackson, I think, will certainly have a role in what he does, and he's still continuing to learn our offense. And, Tyron Smith's a little slot that we brought in. I think AT's had a really nice spring and summer. So we got some of those smaller bodies, those slot bodies to work with. I think we just really got to define roles of what they do best, and let's ask them to do those things, and then figure out where to play them. I think, so Barry's a guy that we know is powerful. He can run. With the ball in his hands, he's dynamic. So we got to find ways to get him the ball. And I think that's part of what we have to do when we start doing game plan.
Tyron Smith kind of has that speed level that you didn't have in the wide receiver room last year. How excited do you get as an offensive-minded coach to try to draw up plays to get him to extend the field? Yeah,
I think he's a guy that that can do a lot of things. He's not very big, but he is a skilled wide receiver. He runs great routes. He's got really good hands. He's shifty. He does have some good speed, so he's also smart. So be able to move him around and motion him and figure out some different matchups and try to get him loose, I think will certainly help. I think we have more depth in the receiver room this year. To be able to utilize those guys and again, I talked about it, but it's finding roles for them, it's finding the right roles and seeing how we can put them in a position to make plays, and that's what we got to do as coaches, and that's what August will be a big thing about that. So, as we talk through August, how that's coming along will be interesting to see.
Are you looking at Xavier Henderson having an even better season than he did last year and kind of progressing?
So. Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully, I feel like last year a lot of times guys could rotate two over him, and we didn't present much problems anywhere else. But hopefully we're a little bit more balanced now. So if they, hey, if you're putting more over here, then now he's going to be more free to get some one-on-one matchups.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love for him to have obviously his best year. I don't even know what he caught last year, close to 800 yards maybe or something like that. But hopefully he's a guy that's pushing the 1,000-yard mark this year. I'm hoping if he stays healthy and we can get him to football. He certainly got the ability to do that.
Back on the defensive side of the ball, Micah Coleman was a guy who had a big spring. Just talk about what you saw from him now throughout this summer.
Well, I think defensively, and talk about defensive line in particular, we certainly need some length on the edges, and I think that's what he provides there. You want some girth in the middle with some bigger guys, I think, but being able to slant and angle those three guys up front, and then also utilize those linebackers. Jared Bartlett's a guy who I feel like, his strength last year, West Virginia, was rushing the passer. I feel like he's playing Mike now, but we'll be able to utilize him as some of that rushing, like his A gap, B gap, C gap, doing some different things with him. But I do think guys with that length, 6'4", 6'5" on the edge, presents different problems for the opponent.
You have a lot of guys, Kiner, Corleone, Dingle, that have won with Cincinnati before, had 9-win seasons. After what happened last season, what's it say with all those guys committing back and wanting to right the ship again?
Yeah, it says a lot about them, what they have inside. That's why I love those guys. They care about Cincinnati, they care about the city, they also care about the university, and for them, that's a bad taste in their mouth. For them to leave, to go somewhere else, and for them it'd be like running away. That's not who they are. They're more, taking the problem head on. And let's get it right. And so these were the guys that helped us recruit all these players that we brought in. They're right guys. And these are also the guys that put the hard work in this offseason. And I think, hopefully, nothing greater than to send some of these guys out of here with a lot of wins and something they can hang their head on and hang their head up and know that they help get that thing turned around.
In terms of talent acquisition, you said on the podium that the portal has really made this a nationwide recruiting effort. For you specifically, for Cincinnati, how has the landscape changed with expansion?
Yeah, I think, once when the portal opened up, we're looking at players from all over the country. And now having, we played out BYU last year, we're going to Colorado, we're going to Texas Tech. So they're going to be more visible throughout the country. And I think more so, I mentioned this more so with the portal because when guys jump in, maybe they're looking for something else. Maybe they're looking for an opportunity to play or all those type of things where we could be a good opportunity. Maybe they watched us play, out in Texas or out in Arizona or something like that. So, so I do think it's just more, brand recognition and to know, man, I watched Cincinnati play. I like the way they play. I want to be a part of that.
Well, he certainly bolsters the
Does it
quarterback
branch out
room.
like that you guys need to pay
Cam,
attention to
obviously,
with the other states like Utah, like Colorado, like Arizona?
Yeah, I think, I don't know necessarily high school wise because in high school you have to recruit them so often. You got to get them on campus so much. It's very difficult for somebody to travel 3 time zones, But I do think in the portal where it happens fast, where you're on the phone with them, all right, now you're flying them in. Oh, I like this. Okay, well, come to school. To me, it's a much easier thing to do. So again, I just think it's probably more helpful for the portal for us. But now, like this side of Mississippi, or the east side of Mississippi, is probably where you concentrate your high school recruiting at.
Kind of sticking with the portal, in the spring portal, you guys made a lot of additions out of the FCS ranks. Does it feel like you're taking a chance, maybe gambling on someone that might be unproven in terms of competitiveness and competitivity, or is it kind of you trusting your player personnel department?
No, I think
so. It's back to
those kind of kids they play. So you see them how they play. You see how they reacted in games. You see them play like Goldie that played Oklahoma State last year at UCA, and he had 12 tackles, I think. We saw what he could do. He's going to play for them. He can play. So to me, it doesn't matter. To me, it's easier to take a guy who played at maybe a group of 5 or a smaller school compared to a guy that played at a power school that didn't play. That's a little bit more, taking more of a chance, in my opinion, on that kid compared to a guy that's played. So, I think to your point, I think we just evaluated the talent and how he played, and we felt pretty good with our evaluation.
After the last game last year, you said it was going to be the hardest off season that any of these
I
players
don't
had
think so, but
experienced.
it's certainly
What were those
different than when we
conversations
went
like
from
heading
Mountain West
into
to,
winter
back
workouts
home.
and
We
then
had to
leading
do a
up to
lot of
spring ball?
catching up.
Well, that was it. Basically, just told them that was going to be the hardest. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a two-way street. They welcomed it, you know. And if you ask them, they'll tell you it's the hardest that they've been through. So, but we needed it, like, you know. And I think had we won 6 games, you know, would it have been as hard this winter? Maybe not. But the way it all happened, the way it all went down, it made it be that way. And so, it doesn't guarantee any wins either, though, by the way. You know, but what it does, hopefully, is it brings the guys together and allows them to play for each other more so than what they would in the past.
Talk about Coach Nico in that aspect, obviously, as well in the spring and summer workouts. You see the separate crews and all that.
Yeah.
Practice. Talk about the job he's done as well.
Yeah, Coach Nico, I mean, obviously he's with them every single day, you know, him and his staff and the way they document every single thing. We're getting emails every day about all the guys while they're training, you know, how they worked out that day. And, you know, he's so intense and so consistent in his approach, and the guys really have bought into it. And you know, so they get tired. Like by the time August gets here, they're glad it's August and not Coach Nico yelling at them every day. You know, now it's the coaches, so it kind of switches it off. He kind of like hands the baton to the coaching staff. So that's getting ready to happen here over the next 3 weeks. And so, but man, I can't be, you know, more proud of Coach Nico and his staff and how they've trained these kids the last 6 months. It's been incredible.
Coach, we're from Orlando. As much as things change, I mean, UCF and Cincinnati keep playing year after year. What are your thoughts on kind of the rivalry, the series, and you know what you guys are going to bring this year?
No, I mean, I think it's a healthy rivalry. I mean, you know, there's 2 really good teams that had great success in the Group of 5, and now we're moving up in the Big 12, and so there's you know, we got a lot of respect for Central Florida and Coach Malzahn and everything that he does and his staff, and then and it's always a good game, you know, no matter where you play. So you know, they came to Nippert last year and got a win, so we got to pay the favor back this year. We go back to Orlando.
In the geographic footprint of the Big 12, I mean, UCF and Cincinnati are kind of over on that side. I mean, do you feel a kinship, I guess, you know, coming in this year at the same time and everything?
Yeah, I think so. You know, us in West Virginia and Central Florida are all kind of on that same plane over there, and you know, a little bit similar situations as far as travel goes and how you approach all that. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, I think Central Florida, because of the same trajectory that Cincinnati's had, I mean, very similar, and you know, 2 really great programs. So I think it's just a natural rivalry, which I think is extremely healthy for college football. I think sometimes you lose that whenever you're adding teams throughout the whole country, but I think that the fact that we're both together, I think, is very healthy, and excited about that continued rivalry.
One more for Coach. UCF, Cincy, and Houston all were successful in the AAC, all finished below 500 last year. So did you think that, what did you learn kind of from that transition? Was it more difficult than you thought moving conferences?
I just think that, you know, I just think that the depth really plays a factor in that. You get a couple of guys injured that are your key players, and you can't fill the gaps in with these other teams that we're playing have and can. It just pays off for those other teams when you look in the second half. And I think second half of games, the second half of the season, I think was a big factor in that on all those teams. And so, you know, hopefully we've all added to our roster some more talent, so you have more depth where you can continue to be competitive in the second half of seasons or in the second half of games.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.